I'd just like to follow up on my earlier video on pastors who doubt. Um, you will probably recall, I'm sure, that in the Gospels, John is described by Jesus, John the Baptist, as being the greatest of all men that had gone before, but nonetheless least in the kingdom of heaven. So he was a very significant figure. He was chosen to be the one who prepared the way for the coming of the Son of Man. Right? This is big stuff. Keep in mind as well that we have repeatedly in the Gospels, Jesus is described as knowing the hearts of people. He knows them in and out. He knows them very well. He knew that Peter would deny him 3 times. He knew that Judas was going to deny him. Um, he's describing when he meet Nathaniel and John that he knew the hearts of people. He knew what was in them. So he knew John the Baptist as well, his cousin. He knew him very well. And he said that about him, that he was the greatest person prior to the coming of his kingdom and the one that was chosen to announce the very coming of Jesus. At the same time, keep this in mind. John the Baptist was arrested. He ended up in prison, and while in prison, he sent word to ask whether Jesus is in fact the Messiah or whether we should expect someone else to be the Messiah. In other words, John was fundamentally doubting whether Jesus was really the Son of God, the Messiah, the one for whom they had been waiting. He was doubting, and he was seriously doubting. He was questioning his whole life. He was questioning all the actions he had done to baptize Jesus. I mean, he had been the one who had baptized Jesus, right? And now he's doubting that. And despite all that, Jesus still recognized him as the greatest in the kingdom prior to the coming of his kingdom and the advent of his kingdom. And he sent word back to tell an encouraging word to John as to the things that were being done in his name. So as in other words, to not to censure his doubts, not to condemn him for his doubts, but to provide evidence for him in order to sustain him in his questioning while in prison. If John could still be a legitimate minister and indeed have the kind of words said about him that Jesus says about him, even while doubting whether Jesus himself was the Messiah, is that not excellent warrant to believe that pastors likewise can find themselves in doubt and questioning without having people question their very faith and censure them and say that they're being deceivers and they should leave the pulpit? I think John, in fact, provides us an excellent model to extend charity to the doubts of others, including, perhaps especially, to those who are in ministry.